All right, today we are tackling one of the most monumental events in all of human history, World War II. You know, its scale is almost impossible to wrap your head around, but understanding its key moments is absolutely crucial for making sense of the world we live in right now. And that right there is no exaggeration. I mean, the source material is crystal clear on this. This was, by every single measure, the biggest and deadliest war humanity has ever seen, period. It completely reshaped the entire globe.
And this wasn't some quick conflict either. We're talking about 6 long, grueling years. A war that stretched across continents and oceans, pulling in countries from pretty much every corner of the planet.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with how it all began, then how it exploded into a world war. We'll look at the key turning points, the staggering human cost, and finally, the legacy that it left behind. Okay, so let's get right to it, the beginning. How does something this massive even start? Well, it all kicked off with a single aggressive move in Europe. And here it is. This was the spark. When Adolf Hitler's Germany rolled into Poland back in September 1939, that was the final straw. It set off this incredible domino effect, forcing Great Britain and France to declare war on Germany. And just like that, World War II had officially begun. So the battle lines were drawn pretty clearly. On one side, you've got the Axis powers, led by Nazi Germany, Japan, and Italy. And on the other side, standing against them, were the Allied forces, a huge coalition that was eventually led by what we call the Big Three: Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union.
Right, so what started in Poland definitely didn't stay in Europe. The conflict just spread like wildfire, pulling nations from all over the globe into its vortex until it became a true world war.
And this really shows you how fast things got out of hand. By 1940, we have the Battle of Britain, the first major battle fought completely in the air. A year later, in 41, the war just explodes on the Eastern Front with Operation Barbarossa, Germany's massive invasion of the Soviet Union. And then, the big one. At the end of that same year, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, and that single event brings the full industrial and military might of the United States into the war. For a long time, it really looked like the Axis powers were unstoppable. They were just winning. But then things started to change. A few pivotal battles came along that completely flipped the script and shifted the war's momentum. This was the beginning of the end for the Axis. And it really all starts here, in the frozen rubble of Stalingrad. This battle was an absolute meat grinder, just unbelievably brutal. But the Soviet defense held. It was unbreakable. This was the turning point on the Eastern Front. It's where the German advance was stopped, dead in its tracks. And as the Soviets were pushing from the east, the Allies delivered the next huge blow from the west. I'm talking about D-Day. It was an amphibious invasion, basically a massive attack from the sea onto land, on a scale nobody had ever seen before. 156,000 Allied troops storming the beaches of Normandy. This was it. This was the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe. But you know, it's easy to get lost in the maps and the strategies. The real story of this war, the one that really matters, is the story of staggering human suffering. The sheer scale of the brutality was just beyond anything the world had seen. And this is just a tiny glimpse into that horror. We're talking about the Holocaust, the systematic industrial-scale murder of millions of people by the Nazi regime. We're talking about some of the most ferocious fighting imaginable, like on Iwo Jima. And then there's the pure, unimaginable cruelty of things like the Bataan Death March, forcing 75,000 troops on a hellish 65-mile march. It's just awful to even comprehend. And really, this quote just says it all. The conflict took more lives and destroyed more land and property around the globe than any previous war. That's the bottom line. The sheer scale of the devastation is something we just can't forget. So, after 6 long years of just unbelievable destruction, the war finally came to an end. But the world that rose from those ashes, it was a completely different place. You see, the end of the war wasn't just about the fighting stopping. It led to a complete reshuffling of the global deck. Old empires fell, new superpowers emerged, and the world came together to create new institutions, hoping to prevent something like this from ever happening again. Its mark on all of us is permanent, and you can still feel it today. And all of that really brings us to this one final, really important question. The war didn't just redraw a map. It completely redefined our world. So looking back on all this, what are the most important lessons that we should be taking away from it today?